Hello and welcome back, Order. Ooh, that's what you want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, great to pick up a win. That was a really weird game because obviously, when you play a team like Gravitas, like 80% of your preparation goes into their star jungle player and Praelis, and then to have him not play at the last moment kind of threw the draft into a little bit of the works. But really happy to stick with it and pick up a much needed victory for week number one.
And what does something like that do to a team? The mental headspace as you go into a game.
I guess like to take the order hat off, like what it should do to a team is absolutely nothing, right? To just like if there's a delay, you deal with the delay. You keep everyone super focused, super positive. The game plan doesn't change. If a person does change at the last moment, I say this to everyone, like it's generally going to be a downgrade. Because it's very often that you make a forced substitution and the person that you're bringing on is better because I would question why you weren't playing that person in the first place, right? So I just think that it's kind of this, balance between keeping them positive, keeping them focused, but not letting them, relax too much, and keep them, super on point. And I think that, we were unable to do that. Well, myself personally was unable to do that during the playoffs versus Direwolves, but glad we took a small step in the right direction today against Gravitas.
Rusty, welcome.
Hey, had to go to the bathroom quickly, sorry.
That's fine. Do you want to tell us about it?
No, not really. It'd just be a bit creepy to discuss that in any capacity, Nick, I think.
I don't know. It's the OPL, buddy. This feels like the perfect time to mention a sponsor off the back of that. A reminder that NeoSurf are running a competition where they want to get you looking good in game. All you need to do is become part of the OPL opening video. So it's really two prizes in one. You get the credit, you get the RP to be able to buy skins in game, and you get to be a part of the broadcast. We want you to film part of the OPL opening video, add yourself to that conference call that you saw at the beginning of the show. Just take a video of yourself joining the call, follow OPL and NeoSurf Esports on Twitter, and then share using the hashtag NeoSurfWin. You've got until week 3 of the OPL to get your entries in. We'll be judging them. Get good at them, and we'll pick our favorite ones. Our favorite one will win a $500 NeoSurf voucher, but we'll also be awarding 5 runners-up with $100 each, all for use in the League of Legends store. Full terms and conditions are on watch.lolesports.com. Big thanks to our partner NeoSurf, where your privacy is protected with no need to provide a credit card or personal information. All they want to know is how you would join a weird conference call with a bunch of people who don't really talk on a regular basis. For most people who recorded that, they were recording at home, but because we had the mid-season streamathon, I was in the studio at the time. I'd just done the sort of interview with the players.
Couch Talk, I believe it's called.
Yeah, thank you very much. And then our producer said, I'll just film the intro. So it was literally 2 minutes of him filming me, just like saying, do this, but he was very quiet, like awkwardly quiet, just staring at me. And then occasionally he'd do this like weird little smile. And then we get to the end of like 2.5 minutes and I'm like, okay, good. That was an incredibly awkward experience. He goes, that's great. So we'll just do one more of those. And it's like,
Oh, dear.
Man, come on. This is just for the personal folder now, isn't it? You sick freak. So that was my experience. Good times. All right, it's time to move on. Mentioning the mid-season, boys, this is just how it goes. Mentioning the mid-season streamathon, we had a blast doing that.
Absolutely.
At least I did. You guys enjoyed?
It was great.
Well, obviously Twitch chat enjoyed, Nick, because there's a lot of people that have carried over the event. In fact, I think we found about 20,000 more. But yeah, no, I mid-season streamathon. I say this all the time. There is something so relaxing about becoming a bedroom caster again. I never thought I was going to get back to this. And then to be able to do like an international tournament as a bedroom caster, that was just a whole nother level of enjoyment for me.
Because normally this would be like a downgrade in your career. That
Correct.
you're not working out of a studio anymore. You're just at home. But this is actually big event, really well run. Obviously for a really great cause, raising money for COVID-19 relief. But the thing that we enjoyed the most out of it was getting some of the other regions to get some exposure to the OPL, because obviously our broadcast does things a little differently than most of the others, mainly because just damn, it's so expensive to make these shows. And so instead we just fill with a bunch of time where we just...
You're like the reverse Alan DeGeneres. It's like, she's sitting there going, you get a car, you get a car. And Nick's like, I need a babysitter. Someone take me to pick up my children.
Well, I will be asking for more from the audience right now, because one of the things that we did in that stream-a-thon was sort of do a bunch of segs that we do, like Couch Call and Ask Nick Boy and One Right Answer and that sort of thing. And a year and a half ago, we actually put a call out to you guys to come up with some segs for the show, because we figured that the OPL is actually a bit of a family show where the audience, the viewers, the fans, the community are as much of the part of the show as we are. So we wanted to open that back up to you guys and just go, if you have any seg ideas, anything that you want to see on the show, then we would love to hear from you. You can put it in chat, send them to asknickboy@gmail.com. But we thought we would bring one seg each that we could debut this split in some capacity. So, Rusty, I want to start with you. What new seg are we going to do on the OPL thanks to you?
So I had two ideas. One of them, I don't know if we can do it because we're still at home, was like a celebrity heads style game. Where we did it with like league champions or something, universal. But thinking about it when I was writing it was like, I don't know how someone's going to give me a character without me seeing it, because it's only me in this room. Like, it's probably not possible. So I was like, what if we change the game a little bit and like maybe it's more of like a charade style thing, right? Instead of a celebrity heads where you have the champion already and now I'm explaining it to you perhaps.
Oh, okay, yeah, that works. And is this physically acted out?
Probably, yeah. I mean, that makes the most sense.
I did this at Worlds, and it was really funny because during the rehearsal, they gave me like Gragas or something, and I went full try hard. And they were like, oh, we're going to give him a really good one then for like live. And the producer goes in my ear, you're going to love this one. Give it to me, Kevin Bell. And he went, Akali. I said, Kevin, no. And he said, no. I want you to act out Akali. I bet you can't. And then I just rolled up my sleeve and pointed to my tattoo, and everyone guessed Akali.
There you go. Technically that's cheating because you showed a picture of it.
I mean, picture is a, loose word, Nick. I didn't draw anything.
Okay, true. I'll accept it. Rusty, you said you had a second one as well.
That was the second one. So I put the variant on it.
You pivoted.
It's like maybe this is like the better version of it.
Okay, cool. So some sort of like acting challenge for league champions. I'm into that. Spawn, what you got?
Okay, how long have we got in this segment?
We got as long as you need. There's probably going to be another delay.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to call this Cooler Talk, right? Mm-hmm. And it's based off an experience I had at 2016 Worlds at MSG. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was somewhere, right? So me and Deficio, Martin Linger, we had an analyst desk segment together, and we had a slight disagreement on the analyst desk, which is to put it mildly, Dick. And so where we ended up is in the caster room, there was a cooler. Mm-hmm. And it was me trying to explain to him what I meant and him trying to explain to me what he meant and us coming to an impasse. And the reason this is, valuable is I did a segment back in the day called The War Room, which was I would take a play from the OPL and I would create a segment about it and explain why it was important. Mm-hmm. What I want Twitch chat to do is I want Twitch chat to use anything at their disposal to pick a play from the OPL and then come to a water cooler with me and try and explain it to me and why it was impactful. And I want to play Martin Linger in this relationship. I want to play Deficio. I just want to sit there and nitpick holes in someone else's analysis. I want to make myself feel good. I want to feel superior. So that's my thing. I want someone to get MS Paint or some weird, shitty, editing software. And I want them to create a War Room S segment. And then for me to be allowed to critique it with the person there live on air. I don't want no pre-recorded stuff.
Okay, cool. So this person will call into the show.
Yeah, and we'll take us through it, and then we will ask them questions about, why did they think that was impactful? And then, if it's actually, if they're wrong, and I guarantee, knowing Twitch chat, knowing the 36,000 people in chat, there's 35,548 of you that are wrong. And the rest of them subscribe to Spawn the Caster. I want to be able to actually tell them they're wrong. That's mine.
Okay, so once again, your idea is just some weird power move.
Absolutely.
You get to go home and stay home and just feel better about yourself. But that's okay. I like it. I like
It's
the idea
funny,
of getting the
though.
audience involved.
I
It is funny.
think that would be very funny.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, he's calling it cooler talk, and I was there during this cooler talk, and there was a group of shoutcasters just sitting in a room, and two angry men come in and just start, like, they've completely tunnel vision. Nothing exists in this room. We're all just listening to
great.
two people
It went
go
until
at
6
it
a.m. the
with
next
a
morning.
cooler. Like, that was it.
Literally went back to the hotel foyer and then went back to his room, and the conversation went for genuinely 12 hours.
Also, arguably, the viewers are going to learn something about critiquing, about
Arguably.
good gameplay, about how to rip someone to shreds from a position of power on a broadcast in front of thousands. They're going to get exposed to all sorts of stuff. Okay, cool. We'll make that one happen. We got cooler talk. We got shreds. So my one, I like the players that we have in the OPL. I feel like we don't get to hear from them enough. I particularly during this time where we can't even have them in studio for interviews and all that sort of stuff, and they're all playing remotely. A second I want to bring back is the one where we guess whose parent is this. Well, I think the working title is "Who Did I Make?" And we just show pictures of pro players' parents and have to guess who they made. But I want to get the pros. I want to hear from the pros again, quite literally. So I want it's called ASMR. So PASM. So pro ASMR. We just get pro players to record ASMR sentences and send it in, and we have to guess who it is. Because I feel like that way they're going to get some exposure on the show. We're going to be able to. I feel like if a Carbon style person did obviously he's not playing at the moment, but like if he did a record, I would know that voice. You know, it's Carbon whispering
Correct.
to you in those sandals. So that's what I want. I want pro ASMR. Are we down for that?
I would do pro ASMR. ASMR. Far out.
It's a difficult thing to say.
It is. I think I'm weird, right? Because I'm blind. So noise stuff is a big part of my life. And I think I could get some pro noise stuff in my life.
Okay. You're saying you and I want to pivot off and start this as our own channel.
Yeah,
I hear
correct.
you. Yeah,
Correct. I'm maybe
I'm
a
not
little
someone-
bit more interested than I should be.
Yeah. Have you got that little tingle up and down your back that may or may not actually exist? All right. So if you've got any ideas for segs, please send them into asknickboy@gmail.com. If we pick yours, we'll give you naming rights as well. You'll get involved. We'll make an opening title sequence. We'll put your name on it. You'll be a part of the broadcast. And Spawn won't rip you to shreds about your poor gameplay analysis. Speaking of poor gameplay, you're not going to see it in Game 4 because it is Legacy versus Direwolves. It is the number 1 and number 2 from Split 1, rounding out the evening. Boys, we're in 45 seconds. Who are we tipping for this one? Have Legacy still got it?
So, you watched last year's Grand Final. They add Churnfire. Cupcake back to coach, ladies and gentlemen. If there was ever for a time for Direwolves to step up, it is right here and right now. And I think Legacy will probably win in about 23 minutes because they are far too good at the moment.
I was going to say 22. You've got a very similar train of thought there for me. I think it's a work in progress for Direwolves, and we'll see them ramp.
Absolutely. I am hoping that Direwolves have thrown everything out the window and are a brand new look team under a brand new look coach. So let's find out what's going to happen. It's Legacy versus Direwolves. Game 4 coming up with the Macca's Champ Select.
Welcome back for the final time tonight for the opening game, really, of Week 1 here for the OPL. Direwolves and Legacy, it's the rematch of the grand finals that went down to the wire, but Legacy showcasing despite the off-season, they are still no slouch to the big occasion, definitely bringing their A game here. Rosters unchanged, coaching staff shuffled around. But do we expect to see much of the same? It seems to be the case here with a dominating performance and a close, an early finish is what you're really hiding here. 20-minute games.
Yeah, normally you'd be like, oh wow, we've got so much time between these splits. How are these teams going to develop? What's going to change? What's new? But there hasn't been a lot of time, Skibby, honestly, between both splits. So these changes aren't going to be drastic. You know, we've seen some slight coaching staff changes here from both of these teams. It is a real battle of the coach shifts here. But generally speaking, their ability to play wouldn't have changed too much. So this makes it, honestly, for me, even more interesting, because it is kind of like that finals rematch. You know, Decoy may be in for Cupcake, but Decoy's no slouch in the role and is very familiar with the team. This should just be a battle of two very good teams, but Legacy have stayed in form, very much so. And we say that because we've seen it. We know. We saw them in the mid-season streamathon. With Direwolves, we don't know.
Going to be an interesting one to see how they've developed themselves, most notably with Decoy now joining back as that starting support. Cupcake filled the position during the grand final itself, putting in some stellar performances as the Bard itself, a pick that he's very comfortable on. But now be a chance for Decoy to get himself back in, develop that synergy with Vital, which quite honestly had a fantastic debut split. You know, we can't highlight that more. The guy is a 17-year-old Korean prodigy. To come in and have that much of a standout performance really for me showcases the level of maturity and just raw ability that the guy has.
Yeah, ability definitely going to be one of the things to nurture there, and a lot of it could be, like, is the team just letting him unleash, right? And that's where having an experienced roster around a 17-year-old can be proven to be quite valuable. We're getting pretty thick and fast through this draft here, Skimmy. It's worth pointing out that Bard was a first ban away from Isles by Direwolves, and that is because Cupcake isn't there. During the grand finals, it was a pick ban champion. It was contested for both teams. So, not too surprised to see that one actually just removed instead now that Decoy is going to be playing. He's gone for the Yuumi first here as well. And we're getting... It was often banned tonight, is what I'll say. And now we're getting them picked instead. There is a whole lot of healing on Summoner's Rift.
Well, I was just going to say, Legacy with this first three have definitely kept their opponents guessing. We've seen that both Tapoon and Tally can play this on, and the same can be said here for the Soraka. We've seen Tapoon play it many a time since the patch has come across where Soraka top lane is once again viable. There is still an option for that to go that way, or for Isles to fill in the void. The bans are the most interesting one for me. The double target towards Miru and his champion pool with the Lee Sin and the Olaf, and then the response here with the GP and Vladimir, so that Tapoon can't be targeted as well. It's always been a hot talking point when you're up against Legacy as to, do you invest those bans towards Tapoon? He can pretty much play anything, but I think we're guaranteed now to know that he will be playing the Ornn, Tally will be on the Victor that we've seen him play before, and then Soraka will be flexed to that bot lane to complement Raze.
Yeah, where it should be, of course, that's Soraka. Now, it's not going to be the easiest feat, of course, to be hitting those heals all laning phases. One less champion to be throwing them at, first of all. But you look at the rest of the Direwolves composition. You've got the Corki, very early pick here for Shock. He has had some standout performances on that pick during the playoffs of Split 1 as well. Had a big hard carry game for himself in there in the finals. Mir is not going to be playing the champions that were banned away from him, like you mentioned. There's actually 4 jungle bans taken away. He did still have the possibility of a Jarvan, but is going to go towards the Echo, something we're seeing a whole lot more of at the current moment. And you look at the top side of the map here with Chippy's on his set, one of his most comfortable champions, usually a pick ban champion for him as well. He's going to get it for free, but that's simply because Topoon has prioritized going the Ornn, prioritized building for the composition, and they want to scale up through that top lane to the 2 items, hit those big team fights as a 5v5, and just ultimately be completely unkillable.
It seems to be the case of both teams wanting to showcase who has the better mechanics, who can show that they deserve a rematch, if you will, of what was an epic grand final. The battle of the supports, the battle of the enchanters, really to complement the ADCs of Vital and Raze, both that had stellar performances. Raze, no doubt, known for being a team fight king. He showcased before on the Ezreal. He can be left to his own device and be very self-sufficient. No doubt alleviating the resources of Isles to help elsewhere. But playing the Kindred should be a lot of fun, and as you highlight there, with the affinity really towards what has become a big resurgence of love towards Echo, we should be in for a lot of aggression as the key word here.
Yeah, a lot more Echo being seen, and more consistently, right? Last split we were getting a lot of the one tricks playing their Echo jungle. Praelus is obviously the one that comes to mind at the first and foremost, but now it's seeing much more consistently. Does present some magic damage through the jungle, which is a pretty big enabling tool for certain team composition. Whereas on the other side of the coin, they needed a lot of physical damage through the jungle, and Babbitt very happy to oblige and go for that Kindred himself. Another tool to keep the rest of his team alive if someone were to invade or go towards them.
Well, comforts across the board here as we enter the very last game of the day to open up the account of a brand new split here in the Oceanic region. It's a grand final rematch with Direwolves taking on Legacy, both looking to get themselves and their brand new campaign off to a flying start here.
So we have to look, as always, at how these junglers are going to play. And the reason that I bring this up, Skimmy, is because we have Schernfire now backing the Direwolves. We don't know necessarily how long he has been coaching for. He was very recently announced as a coach for the team. But what we do know is that Schernfire has also spent time in multiple regions. He's a very high-ranked jungler himself and has got the brain for the role. If he's able to work with Mir to really unleash the potential of this guy, and I coached Mir, I know that he has definitely got that potential within him, then they're going to become even more dangerous than they were in that first split. So my eyes always gravitate towards Mir as he takes that red buff early, just to see how he's going to be able to match against what is the best jungler in the league, right? And Babbitt.
And I mean, like, you know, what resources does Schernfire have to play with? I mean, this is a very star-studded roster that Direwolves have right now. You're looking at multiple members here, always achieving top 5 in the solo queue ladders. They've on multiple times showcased what they can do and obviously then delivered in the results they've proven. So you'll be looking to see that they've continued that progression and matched what has been the case of Legacy not being any slouch during that off-season break as well.
So both teams seem to be keenly aware of where they both are now. Of course, some pings going on to Babbitt as he's taking away the blue buff and the Gromp. Early vision actually going to be placed here by Shock on the bottom side of the rift. So once again, that's going to be trying to spot them doing the Scuttle Crab in a minute from now. That information will be vital for someone like me on his Echo to get active around the rift, whether that's to contest or to just take a trade in the Scuttle Crab is to be seen. Top lane just having a bit of a biff here. No big surprises if a set's able to manhandle an Ornn this early.
Chippies is going to be one to definitely keep your eyes on. He definitely during the playoffs showcased that his champion pool was not as predictive as once was. Definitely one that I'll be looking to keep an eye on during this split. He's, for the most part, been a central point of their composition known as a split-pushing assassin that wants to draw a lot of resources his way. But his ability to flex into the likes of Malphite and Vladimir was pretty clutch, to be quite honest.
Do you know off the top of your head how many games of Ornn Chippy's played in a row during the off-season?
I do not.
Because there was a post made by the Direwolves, and the number of games that Chippy's played on the Ornn was absurd. And I think the important takeaway from that is think back to the first split, and what was one of the key weaknesses that the Direwolves had? It was Chippy's inability to play the Ornn, affecting their pick and ban phase against the best teams in the league. They had to get creative, you know, they brought in a Poppy, a Malphite, these different champions to compensate, and they always banned it, so it genuinely affected them.
And it became that sort of running joke, right, of like the predictability of knowing that that is a ban that is always going to be present.
Yeah, and I think he played somewhere well over 30 games of Ornn, and just Ornn, all in solo queue, just like hard grinded the champion until he was a master. And I mean, that's commitment. That's a clear sign that he knows what he needs to work on in the off-season. He's put the hours into it, so not only has he been able to play the champion himself and learn to play it, he'll be able to play even into it perhaps more effectively, as that's one of the key tools of being able to play against the champion, right? Knowing what it does in and out yourself.
You can see the amount of aggression that's happening bot side, the frustration that Ayumi presents when the harass goes unpunished. Obviously, the Soraka response is to land that Starfall and
50 games.
Utilize that regeneration to turn things around.
Of all.
50 is the confirmed number?
50
I feel like that's
in a row.
He's lost the plot.
Yeah, I'd lose my mind after 3.
The difference, 3 and 50, by the way.
What's the same the same champion more than once in a row is mentally taxing. I don't know if you have that same feeling, but I go through my life playing a different champion every game just to have a new experience, you know? Like, that's commitment from Chippy.
Call coming collected. Chippies knows what he needs to get done. 50 games, that's a monumental achievement on any champion, quite frankly. But he's doing well so far. Found himself a nice little CS lead, 10 CS up, as the rest of his team are looking to hold their own at this stage, with Legacy now being in the driving seat, given the fact that they've been receiving a bit of a beating in this bottom side, have now transitioned their team across towards the very first Dragon. An early TP comes out from Ray. He's running that on his Ezreal to ensure that he can take a beating and not be too overly punished as a result. Going to return back to this lane now with Ashin.
This is big. He's able to pick up this Ocean Drake completely uncontested here. Babib's going to get himself level 5 from it as well, and a free Scuttle Crab that he almost didn't realize was going to spawn. So big win there from the side of Legacy as a team. Of course, you can see Mir pretty active into the enemy jungle to see what he can find. Unfortunately, not going to find those Krugs available until now. But he's going to take away some camp. So at least the trade is there. Experience-wise, Mir is closer to 6. So that is the sacrifice that Babib has actively made here. But having an early Ocean Drake, and, you know, like a 6-minute Ocean Drake as well, is just invaluable for lane sustain and sticking power for the rest of his team. And, you know, call it selfless if you want. It's just a nice little Drake to take.
And I think Legacy really proved in Split 1 that they were the more disciplined team as to knowing when and what to sacrifice when it came to that Dragon. How many times did we see Coach Jensen at the stage when we got a chance to interview him pre-game start of, look, we're going to sacrifice the first 2 Dragons, then we're going to commit, and then it sort of just happened that way. The ability to force your playstyle on your opponent. Interesting to see how they transition this, is if we are going to get that 23-minute win condition with a soul spawning and the game collapsing.
And what separates a good team from a great team is, like you just mentioned, being able to put your win conditions or your team composition onto your opponents. And like a good team will pick just a wombo comp, right? Like you play a bronze game and you might lose to a bronze Malphite Orianna combo just because they run down mid lane. You're like, oh, what do we do? Like, we have to match them, and they engage. But a great team has a different style of composition, right? Legacy, they've gone for the Kindred to keep their team alive. They've got more defensive utility here as well. They have some engage. But if they're able to make Direwolves beat to their drum, play their tempo with a comp that's not just a wombo, that's the sign of a great team. And they did do that in the first split.
And no doubt that is what we're going to be looking forward to seeing in this game, as we turn our attention towards the mid lane. Shock, most notably known for his comfort on multiple champions. Cassiopeia is one that we saw on display a few times with 1,000 games, or 2,000 games, I believe, was the magic number for him. So definitely giving a Chippy's run for his number with that 50 on the Ornn. But he's played the Corki a fair few times as well. And his lane opponent in Tally definitely starting to hold his own, come into the transition of switching as a top lane and out to the mid lane. And his identity for a lot of the time was to play the global champions. We're talking Twisted Fate, Galio, feeling quite comfortable to sacrifice a bit of CS if it meant that the rest of his team would win. First signs of life there, as you can see in the top side.
That was nice, actually, from top. And he forced a flash out of Chippies. The utmost respect being given by this top laner of the Direwolves. And I think he just had to assume that there were people nearby. You know, that the Babib was in the area. Of course, he wasn't visible on the map at that moment. Shows himself in mid shortly afterwards. But there might have even just been potential kill threat in that 1v1. You know, Topoon hits level 6, had a window, actually just had a very good trade on his opponent. And if that E, that dash forwards, was actually back up and available, and I think it would have been close, then maybe he just forced that 1v1 fight win instead. So, very safe choice here by Chippies. But now ultimately does not have the flash, and that ultimate from Ornn will be back far soon.
The calmest game of the day so far. 10 minutes in, still yet to see a kill, but now we're going to see a bit of a biff between the mid laners. As the attention for aggression starts to ramp up just a little bit more. Next Dragon will be spawning in under 90 seconds. And this is sort of the discipline we kind of expected to see, you'd imagine, from an opening game with both of these teams showcasing they were arguably first and second, holding their own right, and looks like not much has changed so far in that skill ceiling.
Yeah, definitely still showing a lot of respect to one another. Nothing overly aggressive, but it's not like anything super aggressive is needed in this game either. You look at the scaling of both respective teams, and there's a lot of it.
Yeah.
Rezril wants to hit that 2 items before he becomes super online. Soraka's going to be happy farming up, getting those items as well. Same thing for the bottom lane of Direwolves. Aphelios, the 3 items more than 2, but still very dangerous once he completes the second. You look towards the rest of the team. Corki, scaling champion. Echo does scale up because he's a damage-dealing champion. Same thing can be said for Legacy. that's it. You know, these teams, they will potentially fight around the objectives, but the need to fight outside of that hardly exists. And so that difference maker may just come down to that preparation, that planning for objectives, or like Legacy, like you mentioned before, the willing sacrifice of objectives starting to add up over time.
The ability to scale on up and get those items online before they look to try and eke out those small advantages that could be a difference makers. We now see Tapoon go for the second attempt at this ultimate all-in. Going to be denied as Chippy's responds to his ultimate to get out of that kill target range, but that's not before Bevitt rocks up to make it a 2v1. And they look to get the first blood on the board at bang on 11 minutes. Legacy find first blood.
And the trade will be on the other side of the map. So the Mountain Drake goes over to the Dire Wolves, but they will be able to get the trade in top lane. The Rift Herald should be started straight away here from Babip as well. And at the end of the day, that kill is going to be just a bit of extra on top for what was already going to be an objective trade here from both respective teams. It's going to be a Cloud Drake as well here, Skimmy, once again. Not a lot of high-impact Drakes to be seen as Souls go on the Rift tonight.
I think it's kind of caters to the idea of what Legacy want to do, right? We've been quite vocal as to, you know, early game Infernals as well as Mountain Dragons, the ability or scaling opportunity it provides at this stage of the game is very, very negligible. So quite willing to say, well, you can have that as a donation, if you will, and allow us to pick up a Herald for more pushing power to then assist in my ability to gank and then get more as a result of it.
You know, I have a feeling in this league, the way it's going to start is because these teams hardly changed at all. A little bit of coaching shifts, of course, is we may still have a very top-heavy league coming into the second split. A lot of the fighting is going to be around the middle of the pack, and so far, you know, I haven't seen anything to say that Dire Wolves will be able to beat Legacy at all or take them down just yet in this game. But I still think there may well be that separation between Dire Wolves and some of the rest of the league.
Definitely going to be an interesting one to keep your eyes on this, man, as we highlighted earlier today, to see exactly what it means in terms of preparation when teams face the Dire Wolves, as to how their banning phase changes, how they look to try and draft. It was quite common for the Dire Wolves to save their last pick for Chippy, so he always got the most desirable matchup. He was the quote-unquote franchise player of this organization, the one that you always look towards. That's why he receives a lot of the narrative when it comes to these matchups.
Yeah,
looking at some item spikes now. Oh, go ahead.
He was the pivot point, right? So, like, he's not just the heart and soul, perhaps, of the team as an identity, but he was also the one being exposed and being attacked, you know, through champions, through draft. And, like, that was a big turning point when he was able to bring out a tank. That was something that really swayed the playoffs in favor of the Dire Wolves, where they were being exposed before that. So, there's so many things to note as aspects towards Chippies. But you do still have the rest of the team behind him, because don't forget, the one game that they did win was on the back of Shock just being huge.
How many times have we seen that happen when he gets those item spikes online and just delivers so much pain from afar? Highlighting that pain is some of these item spikes that are now coming online. We've got triple Dark Seals achieved, all about the Enchanters finding value there, but the Infinity Edge has to be the biggest one of them all. Once again, if it worked once, let's make it happen again, but this time Mira has the game sense to say, I will not allow you to have this one for free, but Telly found advantages through mid lane. He is here, Shock and coming with that TP. Now we're going to start to see signs of life. As the turret falls on down, as does Chippies, and Tapoon. He's an absolute monster. He's always been that monster, and he gets himself a double kill.
And Mir may have the sense to get there to help his team, but they're not going to be able to have 3 people there to save them. And it was still just the 1v1 going in favor of Tapoon against Chippies. So even if Mir is there, they're struggling too much to be able to prevent that from happening. Now you look towards what's happening on the other side of the map. Is there a trade at all? The answer is a definitive no. And so Legacy, they put their foot down in this game and they start to build that lead. It's 4,000 just out of nowhere.
The best top laner in the OPL continues to hold on to that title, and for good reason right now. Well on his way to getting that second item spike online, only moments away from hitting that ability to unlock those ornaments as well. And with a name like that, you sort of know what to expect when his name is literally Tapoon. He wants to win that matchup, and he's going to be involved in all the kill participation as Bamip looks to assist, with the next Dragon now spawning in a minute 20. Both junglers are going to collide once again, fighting over that scuttle, and look at the damage that Babip can emit. Must have a fair few marks already online.
Yeah, Babip's a unit at the moment. Mir, of course, unfortunately going to be face-checking. The Scrying Plant not going to even see the ward that was showing him walk forwards into the face of Babip. Now he's going to get the Scuttle Crab for free. Drake up in 50 seconds, so that is brilliant timing on securing that Scuttle as well. And this game slows down and potentially even grinds to a halt for the Direwolves, where it could just be full steam ahead here for Legacy. And you know, one of the biggest things here, Skimmy, one of the biggest differences is about that mid lane movement. You know, it's not just about pushing the lane and having control or having priority, it's about having the first move. And that dive top lane was Tally having definitive first move, and he was against the teleport of Shock as well. Gets there very early just by walking to make sure that dive was successful. And any kind of jungle play that you see on Summoner's Rift tends to go through the mid lane from the jungler. And that's a case of it.
And what does it actually mean in terms of economy? Well, the team as a whole is up by 4,500 gold, and you're finding that as a 2,000 gold lead in the top. 1,000 between the junglers. Gold leads across the board for every single lane right now. Legacy have kept calm, cool, and composed. They've retained this macro sense of playstyle where they are not falling victim to early game aggression where blood is spilled across the rift. No, they want to keep this one under wraps. And up against a very strong opponent to start off a brand new campaign. Dragon has now spawned, and Legacy with the priority in their lanes are able to rotate their entire team down to claim that. And well, with Babbitt being as strong as he is, I'd love to see how many marks he's on, but if he's bullying out Mirror this early on, we can see there 5 stacks already.
Yeah, it's huge. It'll be very difficult to deal with as the game goes on as well. Going for the tankier build with the Black Cleaver. He's not only got the extra range, he's going to be augmenting the rest of his team's damage, namely, of course, Raze on that Ezreal. Has got the 2 items done for himself there as well, so they're hitting their item spikes sooner than you would have liked if you were Direwolves. And they're going to become pretty hard to deal with, especially, I'm going to say, actually, we're 17 minutes in. This is a moment in the game where realistically the only things you're starting to look towards probably just going to be the mid lane outer turret. So this could be a moment for Direwolves to just buy time. Probably what you'd want to see from them. Of course, there is still a 2-0 Ornn that could honestly probably 1v1 anyone. So, easier said than done.
Maybe a source of frustration here as Vital has been sitting on that Infinity Edge power spike over his counterpart in a cheaper, more utility-focused Ezreal build. Unable to find a situation in which he can showcase his true strength, especially when Yuumi is coupled alongside with him. But will make very quick work of that minion wave when it is present.
I mean, this is definitely a weak-sided 2v2 for both teams in bottom lane, right? It's just that you can feel the presence from Babbitt more so through the lanes, where you haven't really felt anything from Mir as a jungler assisting the lane priority whatsoever. That's really the key difference between these teams right now. I mean, you could look at it and say it's top difference, and I think mechanically it's been excellent from Topoon to control that 1v1. But there was the flash forced earlier by him, and that may just be a jungle presence thing, right? Like, it was a respectful flash, but Chippies knew that Mir wasn't even remotely close to the area as Babbitt had control of the jungle.
Mira once again searching for trouble in the mid lane as that Muramana has now been completed and involved here by Shock, but he is very low on those resources, and that's the signal that allows Legacy to summon the Herald and destroy the mid tier 1. Topoon was looking for the collapse, the extra juice in the tank, if you will. Ult won't collapse, but Shock has not still been allowed to TP back. That's the second headbutt that goes off for free.
Yeah, second charge going down as well. So just like you'd expect, they break the mid lane outer turret. No contest there from the Direwolves. A few members here, of course, but that's to stop any further aggression from happening. At the end of the day, it's still just a bit of extra gold into the pockets of Legacy. The Direwolves having honestly no response. You can see now that the support and jungler of the Direwolves are starting to work together more. This isn't the first time that they've done this. But they're going to go around the map as best they can, get some vision control. But like mentioned, there isn't really an objective on the map. There isn't a great deal of things to look towards. So those two working together, it's just because there's nowhere else for them to be. Right, it's going to get some wards down, maybe protect their strong-sided side laner, which should always be Shock. He is the one that they need to keep farming successfully and safely. And that's where they're currently standing.
Doesn't go back, continues to farm away as a result of getting that blue buff. May just have enough left in the tank to get himself a full item as a result here now. And looking for that Trinity Force to give himself a monumental amount of damage to give themselves the edge. There it is, and one clean sweep. He was sitting on a lot of gold there. You can understand now the reluctance to hold on to those turrets in mid lane. And no doubt here, Rusty, for this next dragon, we may see signs of life for a contest.
We definitely may. Of course, we have to point out how strong their opponents are. So it's one thing to say that Shock is big. It's another thing to say that they will take the contest. However, I will also say that it's not just Shock. We have 2 completed items for Mir. We also have the Executioner's Calling with the Zir for Vital. The Zeal, sorry, for Vital. So Teamfight utility is going to be there from the Aphelios against some of the healing of the Soraka. There is no Executioner's Calling on the other side of the Rift here, though there is the Bramble Vest for Topu. So healing cut going to be very important if you are looking to take a 5v5 is my takeaway. We'll see if they choose to, however.
Begs the question as to whether or not they want to contest this one. Many teams have been quite willing to sacrifice and only force the fight when it is definitely required, which is that soul point. But the item spikes that you highlight are definitely online. We'll definitely fuel and fund these Dark Seals that are still sitting at 0 stacks. 30 seconds on that Dragon. Whether or not they look to try and do a contest and say, well, we'll forgive this one, but wait for the Baron dance where the team fight is baited on in.
I don't know if they will contest it. You know, this game, you can see it on the gold difference right now as well, is so much through the jungle and top lane difference, and Topun's already situated to the bottom side of the map. He's going to have priority in that 1v1. Chippy's most likely just going to be stuck under the turret, maybe even feeling too unsafe to farm at the turret if everyone's missing from the side of Legacy. Can they even get to this Drake to contest it in a timely manner is to be seen. They may even sacrifice mid lane priority for it. And if they sacrifice that mid lane priority, then the dance continues for Legacy where they can just disengage. Or even force the fight if Direwolves are going to be the ones that try and go overly aggressive for it. With a package available, however, they might.
And packs so much of a punch. We've seen how many times a Corki package can be the deal breaker. The one that changes the outcome of this fight. Chippy's now grouping on up. Not going to use that teleport to get himself online into this fight. The package gets deployed to get himself into mid lane. The response is to Poon tracking out the Ornn ult. Now they're waiting to try and find who their kill target is, and that's a massive ult laser that comes out here from Telly the Moonlight Vigil to respond. Both teams utilizing ultimates to try and find an advantage.
I think they just pinged on my way to Baron. I feel like Legacy are going to be aware of this, though. The bait's there. That dragon... Yeah, there's a ward on the pit as well. There's no way. Teleports are available for Legacy. My god, this is going down quickly, though.
They spotted the health bar. Talion said, that is it. We're going into this one. He's gone back to base. He's got full health. He can TP back in to join this one. True Shot Barrage knows that Direwolves are disengaged from this one. And this is the dance I was highlighting before as to whether or not they would say, you can go for that dragon. We're quite willing to go for this instead. The dragon did get picked up, so now Legacy are on that soul point. Direwolves wanted to do something given the spikes of their major items.
Yeah, the idea is cute, right? Like, you get them going to Drake, you know that you're not going to be able to win the 5v5 anymore just because you've used everything you have, partly for a disengage, maybe for a poke. You've used it all in mid lane, and now what you have is you have mid lane priority, but no opportunity to get to the Drake itself. What they hadn't accounted for was the fact that Legacy were already hitting the Drake. So it almost instantly went down. And while the Baron got to half HP, and it was done incredibly quickly while it was being attacked there by the Direwolves, not fast enough, and the teleport was available for Tally. So at least, if you were Direwolves, you would say we won getting a teleport out of their mid laner and keeping them around on the map, not letting them get a free reset. But at the end of the day, it's still another Drake going into the pockets of Legacy. It's still one step closer to them getting that victory through Cloud Soul acquisition.
Begs the question now, what Direwolves look to try and do with this window of another 3.5 minutes before that soul point decider comes online. If they just want to respond to the 1-3-1 setup, farm as much as they can, unlock multiple more items to give themselves that small lead that could be enough to turn the tide of this one. Bear in mind, it's a 25-minute game with only 3 kills as a grand total. It's been very, very slow, very characteristic of the respect shown to both these teams.
And the willingness, the resolve to be able to sit here and play a slow game. They've gone down 5,000 gold here, Direwolves, in the process. I wouldn't say, so the thing is, like, you can sit here and you can say we scale, it's fine. But if your opponents also scale, is it fine? Is always the question that you have to ask yourself. Because not only do they scale, they hit that scaling mark earlier, which means that they can force on you at better windows of opportunity. So if you're scaling, you have to try and stay as close to even as you can if your opponents also do. And that's the case in this game.
How many times have we seen the word, we're scaling, don't worry, let's just bring it to late game, be thrown out without any real context at this stage. 5k gold is the difference here. And it's only going to continue to grow as Tapoon looks to upgrade as many items as he can across the board. He's given Babbitt the upgrade on the Black Cleaver.
And now Raze as well. Gone for the Frozen Fist upgrade, so a bit of extra armor into the pockets here of the AD carry of Legacy. Very hard to kill now, though it is worth pointing out that once the crit is on for Shock, as he starts to build those third items, he hasn't got them a little while yet, by the way. As he starts getting those crit items, will become pretty hard to deal with himself. And you know, I feel like that's a key point that we just discussed. I just want to reiterate that fact. A lot of teams say what you just said, Skimmy, is it's fine, we scale. But do they ever consider how much their opponents do as well? You know? It's very easy to think about yourself, but is it easy to think about what your opponents can do?
I remember having a good laugh with Tally off stream after the MSS, and where he posted that screenshot of like the dad at the door saying, you know, are you winning, son? And it's just him saying, oh, in 20, don't worry, we scale. It's one of those things, right? You know, you talk about, oh, I'm playing Cassidy, I'm playing Corky, don't worry, we scale. But you know, the context of things, if your opponent is still so far ahead, means very little in isolation.
That's the thing, right? Yeah, we scale, but they've got Baron. So what do we do? Well, they haven't got Elder, so we play for Elder. Okay, they've got Baron and Elder. What do? We scale. It's like there is no winning to this conversation.
I feel like Shock is in such a situation in this game where his service has been so required to always catch these waves that he's never allowed to buy individual components. He's going back to shop and just buying outright items in one go.
He's got teleport, man. Surely he's had a possibility somewhere in here to back. It's not like he's just buying full items. He's also not buying control wards or resetting for, you know, vision priority or anything. I just feel, you know, maybe he just doesn't need to. He's about to go back with, like, what is it, 2,500 gold? So we'll see if it's the Infinity Edge or the Zeal. Yeah, it's going to be the IE choice. No control book yet. There we go.
Here it is.
That's my boy.
Makes Rusty a happy man. He won't be broken here today.
Not only twice in the first game.
He's had his moments already. They're out the door.
Quota.
Well, Chippy's in a spot above her right now, going to get collapsed upon. The calm before the storm gets broken. Nimbus show up. Uses Ult as a disengage option. And will be protected by the tier 1 turret. But now, this is what they're playing for, and that is why they went for it. The Dragon has spawned. The Soul Point decided Miru going to actually recall back into the opponent. Dragon doing so much damage to act as a buffer right now. Telling the spot above him, but Lamb's Respite comes across clutch, giving him health, allowing Soraka a bit of time to come across with the heals of her own. Forces the wish. And that will be all she wrote, as Legacy now have a 30% reduction on those ultimates and so much mobility.
Yeah, and that's big, right? You've got the Soraka ultimate, you've got the Ornn ultimate as well. That cooldown reduction is going to be really nice for them to have. But the bigger win here as well above all of that is that they've pushed Dials and forced them back to base. Set no ultimate, Echo no ultimate. He doesn't have the flash anymore either, as he used it to try and disengage. Yuumi and Aphelios not having it themselves means that Legacy have complete control of the Rift. They chose to go towards the Baron with it. Now they are going to disengage here. Shock is level 16 on his Corki. The Rockets now have a 1-to-1 ratio on him as he's leveled up the ultimate 3 times. And he is now starting to do some serious damage with those big ones. You can see one of them hitting just there. And that's the magic damage, Skimmy, that the team did need.
That they will definitely need as well, not to mention that they got the Malta Reminder here on Vitals Aphelios as well. A bit of a tech pick that Aphelios doesn't typically build into, but given the fact he's gone for the Executioners, will find maximum value. Could be a difference maker here to try and shred through the front line that Legacy have definitely bulked up here.
They have bought a whole lot of time, to be honest, Direwolf. You know, the gold difference stagnating at 5,000 to the point where Shock's about to get his 3rd item. We've got the same thing for Vital now. He has finished, his last Whisper item. Now got the Zeal as well, working towards that 4. Kept it at the Zeal, actually, for the entire last Whisper purchase. So he's going to start to shred those tanks. And I mean, there is a point where if it stays at only 5,000, very winnable game. Very winnable.
We've definitely seen stranger things happen on the Rift, but once again, Legacy saying, well, We need to make something happen with this lead that we have acquired, and that is going to be a Baron call once again. This will draw the attention, most likely be double teleports. Yeah, absolutely. That comes across here from Direwolves. So the vision they have now, Tapoon leads the line down to half, but the all-in-all cannot be triggered for R2. Baron, meanwhile, is still doing damage to him himself. Going to be very reliant now on Isles to top him up.
And I think it's just going to be the disengage here from Direwolves. They have the health advantage right now. And they're going to push into the enemy jungle here, maybe catch them trying to recall. Mir's going to spot Babip and Raze is caught.
Raze in a lot of trouble right now. Gets suppressed, gets locked in place. Lamps of Spike comes in absolutely clutch. Babip, right place, right time, going to be there to give him the heal. He gets another Astral Shift out of harm's way. And now Direwolves have been put in a situation they wish they will not. Vital gets taken on down, but that's not before Tally picks himself up a double kill in a choke spot. The absolute dream for a Victor with his ultimate.
The rest of Legacy got there just in time, Skippy. That actually looked really awkward for Raze. He got flashed on, I think, dashed over the wall, all the dashes catching him, and actually set ulted into an Echo Stun. So things couldn't have looked better there at the very start of the get-go for Direwolves, but they were running into Legacy's jungle. The resets came in, the repositioning came in as well from the rest of the team that hadn't reset, and they're able to get the 1-for-2 trade. They're going again.
They are indeed. Vital's trying to make that play happen right now without Decoy. He's fully reliant on his own health, but he manages to survive based on the fact he hit the lifesteal dagger online. Chippy's doing whatever he can at the Baron pits. Unable to find that kill, and Legacy once again pixel perfect in their maneuvers, go unpunished and survive.
Yeah, he's having a rough go of it here, Mr. Chippy. 0-3 on that set. And unfortunately, because he fell behind, he stays there as he's against an Ornn. And when tanks are ahead, they stay there as well. Now we're looking once again. I think Baron attempt number 74, but even harder to contest this time if you're the Direwolves. Remember the teleports we used the first time, and now they've sacrificed their top laner the second time. They do get some resets off. No possibility of a contest though.
Going to be forced to just merely watch on right now. And no doubt look to stem the bleeding that will come from this Baron-inspired push towards inhibitors with 2 minutes on their Elder Drake, which could be a turning point for them. But let's check in with this replay to see exactly how that little cute attempt by Direwolves was to try and catch out onto Raze.
And I mean, that is a cool combo that you just saw from the right, but Babip just around the corner, able to buy so much time for Raze, who honestly was a hair's breadth away from surviving. It's just that auto traveling 2,000 units by the Aphelios to lock down that kill. They get the one. Remember that they sacrificed 2 for that, and ultimately, that was the Baron.
6k gold lead. That buffer has stayed the same for the majority of this game. It's fluctuated up and down, but the theme has stayed the same. The item upgrades that are online right now. There's no redemption to empower on Isles of Soraka here, but it will find value across the board regardless.
Do you think that Tally is the type of player that in this position, instead of completing his boots, he'll get a Magi?
I do.
I think he will.
He likes to punch on.
I think if this was the OPL finals, I don't think he would, but I reckon he does. That's if we even get to see it. The game doesn't end before that.
Like, he won't need faster boots when he's already in your base. He has one direction, that is to go for the end right now. His top inhibitor falls on down, and they can easily transition into what was a prepped wave mid for an easy double.
Yeah. Chippy's caught in the bottom lane. Finally gets himself back to base. There is a package here for the Corki as well, who would have finished his Infinity Edge in this time. So they are at least going to push Legacy back, but look at them just waiting around the corner. Another mark just goes into the hands of Babip as well, as he's got 8 for himself.
That's insane.
Direwolves might even force here.
They will. They don't want to leave this one to chance right now. They need to find a fight and need to find it quick. Decoy in a lot of trouble. Disengages, jumps onto Mir, gets the reset, gets out. They still haven't found a kill target just yet. Chippy's jumps to the back line, hoping he can take Tapoon, who flirts and laughs and taunts him in the face of death. He survives. And everything around Chippy's everything around the Direwolves just falls to bits. Not a single member of Legacy fall on down. The hard force gets punished. And that gives Legacy the invitation to say, we will not reset. We will end this game.
Yeah, Ray's just running straight into the face of Vital, having Decoy on his back. Not even phased by the damage that he's dealing. So much armor there as well. Legacy, they'll have no troubles ending this game.
That they will. Legacy will get off their account with the back-to-back grand finals going the same way, the same fashion. It will be a victory. It took a while, but the result is the same regardless. 10 kills, 35 minutes in. Legacy claim victory.
And if you haven't seen the post on social media by Legacy before this game, I think now's a pretty appropriate time to go and have a look at that one after this show ends, because they were confident coming into this one, and rightly so. You got to see just clean, cohesive League of Legends out of Legacy, and they were never, ever in doubt in that game.
That they were not in order. I mean, for me, it was a very close game for moments of that one where there was definitely a opportunity for them to try and swing the balance. There were plenty of times for comebacks. It felt to me that every time Direwolves tried to force a way back in, for whatever reason, Legacy always had that response, the ability to always shut down the shock with the package to try and come in and get that initial pick with all the damage that a Corki possesses. The flank attempt on that initial Baron dance where Rage just does not fall on down. Everything, if there was an Elo god out there, it was definitely looking down on Legacy.
I'm a simple man, Skimmy. What was the difference in that game? It's that the engage tools from Direwolves were a Corki package, and I just don't think that's enough to get you a successful engage, and you can see what happens when that was their one attempt at it.
Well, that does it for game number 4 of the day. It's the final game of the day, so for the meantime, we're going to go to a quick break, and when we return, we've got Nick and MPL.
Breaks be damned.
Okay,
No, we don't.
well, we're not even going to a
We're
break.
here.
We're here. Okay, well, I'm here. There is no transition. That was the break. I just awkwardly stare into the soul of all you guys for about 5-10 seconds. And okay, now welcome back, Nick, and welcome back, Spawn. There you go.
I mean, you made it
Is
back
Nick? He's here. Okay, cool.
after the hellish first split where you could have been fired. You were doing so well today.
Thank you. I
And
tried.
I just feel like now you've ruined it, and you're back to square one on the chopping block.
Yeah.
Anything could happen from here on.
There always has
that
to be a
was-
reason to fire me, right?
That was just disastrous. Not disastrous from Legacy, though. Exactly what we expected from those guys. As we said before the game, they're just too good right now. Can they take out the second split? They're certainly on their way. There's only a small sample size, but let's take a look back at the results from today for all 8 teams in the OPL, because things have happened. Games have started. Split is on. I'm just filling time waiting for a graphic, and maybe that graphic isn't coming. So there it is. Interesting. Okay, so we've got Internet.gg taking down Chiefs for game number 1. Avant taking the win over Mammoth for game 2. Order beating Gravitas for game 3. And Legacy handily taking down the Direwolves for game 4. Everything we feel like, gentlemen, as it was supposed to be, except for game number 1 last year.
Yeah, game number 1 was definitely a big spatter in the works there from the cheeky Fiddlesticks composition out of Pentanet.gg. Hey, big surprise. But you'd be very happy with that one if you were Pentanet.
You were very happy indeed. And particularly, I mean, you were so angry at that Fiddlesticks pick as it was happening.
I wasn't angry.
You kept going, oh, this Fiddlesticks. Nick, let me explain to you why the Fiddlesticks is just this.
What I said,
Who
Nick,
picks Fiddle? Who
this
blind
is
picks Fiddle into
defamation.
this?
What I said, Nick, was that's ballsy because it was blind. That was all I said, all right?
You, I couldn't shut you up. But you don't want to shut up, Rusty, because he is a professional talker, commentary game man, and there's going to be more games coming up tomorrow. So let's take a look at some of the games that Rusty will be talking over when you join us for day 2 of week 1 of split 2 of the 2020 OPL. Game number 1, Chiefs versus Gravitas. We move on to Avant versus Direwolves, PGG taking on Mammoth, and finally Order versus Legacy rounding out the day, gentlemen. Spawn, what's the banger for tonight?
When you have a look at it, I'm super interested to see how Order does up against Legacy. I really hate when you give it to me when the game of the day is actually Order v Legacy, because I feel like now the chat is just like, bias! Off with his head! But I actually do genuinely think that game 4 is the real test, right? I always describe Order as like the bully that beats up the people that are below them, and then, like, you know, as soon as someone sticks up to them, they get taken down. And it's time to see whether they still are the bully or if they're a genuine threat.
It's time to see that as well. I mean, I'm excited to see Chiefs, to see if it was just a blip or if something profound has happened. Skimmy, are the Chiefs just not the Chiefs that we know?
No, I don't think that's going to really upset them in their camp. I think the Chiefs still have that identity of aggression. I feel like Drag, who welcomed into a new role, he'll bounce back. The guy is a source of creativity and youth, right? He's definitely going to be one to get back and be cheeky and have fun with Katsuri.
If there's one thing he could do, it's bounce
someone
back.
when you don't know what to say. A source of creativity and youth.
Look, that's the most PC way of saying, look, I've seen this guy and the guy's a meme lord. Is that what you want me to say?
Yeah.
There you go. You have it, Spawn. Cool.
Creativity and youth, Skimmy.
Look, when you're a commentator,
mate,
you've got to
just
think of
know-
like PC ways to say things, right? No?
When I listen to you commentate, I just hear hype and youth.
It's called enjoyment, living and loving life, and let me throw him back to Nick so I can not be thrown under the bus. Thank you.
Very funny. We need a youth emote in the chat. So we hope that you can join us for day 2 tomorrow for the OPL. A massive thank you to our sponsors, NeoSurf, McDonald's, and EPOS. Big thank you to you guys for hanging out and watching this evening at the start of Split 2. Remember to send in your nickbag questions to asknickboy@gmail.com. I saw in the chat, WDL660140, which definitely feels like an account that you must use all the time, said, okay, wrap it up. You clearly haven't watched the show before because we're heading into the MPL, boys. This, of course, is the segment where the real pro play starts, where the real talent comes out to shine. So there will be a very brief break, and we'll be back with some MPL action with yours truly and the cast right after this. Thanks for watching.
Today is the NeoSurf Cup, and we're going to be playing against Misfits, so hopefully we can bring home the win.
NeoSurf is simple, safe and secure. You can go to your local shop and get a voucher code and use it online, preferably to buy League of Legends skins.
It's got it! This is deadly! It's got it!
Welcome to the 2020 OPL. I am Nick Boy Richardson.
And that's a beautiful hemo play, gone to multiple members. He gets himself a double kill.
It's Raze doing what he does, the team fight king.
We love everybody. We love the OPL.
If you're craving the taste of your favourites, head to Macca's for a fast, safe and contactless drive-through experience. For your Macca's run, contact-free, we'll be here.
Stop! You're gonna get us in trouble! Look, I'm Garrett Crownguard, Might of Demacia! It's over for this monster! You're spinning the wrong way. Listen, beast. You don't stand a chance against Fior Leroux. How does she do those moves? So close to glory.
Decent footwork. Need to watch your guard, though. You think they're ready to join the Vanguard?
Well, they certainly know the flashy stuff. But seeking glory only goes so far. Will glory be there for every failure? Will glory lift you through all your trials? A true Demacian seeks excellence. So when you face death's terrible jaws, you will not falter!
Fiora?
you want me to sugarcoat it?
You keep at it.
Seems like I'm the one holding all the cards now.
Well played, Captain. You finally landed me.
Don't flatter yourself. I'm after a bigger fish. Your partner.
Now, Graves is too smart to walk into a trap. If you think he'd be stupid enough to bash...
Let him go and nobody gets hurt.
Damn it.
Dumb luck is a gift of his.
Oh, is it? No, you don't.
I got you, brother.
Much obliged. My turn.
All right, Missy Fortune. Nice and easy.
Don't make any more trouble.
Okay, you win. So who gets to collect my bounty?
Well, by arrangement, we always split 50-50.
Nah, hold up, 70-30.
What are you talking about?
The time, I'm pretty sure I just saved you again, which means I get the bigger
I had
cut.
it perfectly under control until you came forward.
You were upside down like a piece of meat.
Hold that shit.
Get your elbow out of my mouth.
That is not my elbow.
Stop moving.
You are a very large man.
Shh. What was that?
As promised, 2 for the price of 1.
Excellent. Your quartermaster.
Oh, thanks, Captain.
You're lucky I like you.
These two will make a worthy sacrifice to the beasts below. Prepare yourselves for 1,000 years of suffering.
Hold on a second. Let 1,000 talk this out, right?
How does that even work?
I missed that scene. I got 20 years back. I was this guy. I'm talking about.
Don't worry, this isn't your last hand. Let's go before this gets ugly.
Looks like the tides of Bilgewater have shifted again, my friend.
Let's get out of here.
So long, Sea Witch!
My sacrifice.
Find someone else to feed your monster.
Stop them.
You gotta catch us first, this slimy fish.
Just another beautiful day in Bilgewater.
It really is.